Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting this evening. And in keeping with our long-standing tradition, we'll engage in our moment of silent reflection, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's start with our moment of silence. Thank you very much. And just to double check to see if guys who have their degrees from Penn State and Case Western Reserve know the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll let our brand new police officer, Colin Cope, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. We'll introduce you further to Colin Cope here in just a minute. But our first guest to be recognized, and she is here alone without her lesser half, right? Katie O'Connor. Katie and Eric are getting ready to open their brand new establishment. You want to come up to the podium and tell us about the new place and the time frames, the expectations as to when we're going to be open, and the whole bit? Everybody wants that new wrap sandwich and smoothies. They just can't wait to get a hold of those.
We're pretty excited about it too, actually. Well, my name is Katie De La Vega. I am the owner of Peter My Heart. Eric, who could not be here today because he has to work at the Social, which is the other business that we own. We're both super excited to be bringing a new restaurant to downtown Buckhannon. So, although we aren't exactly new to this industry, this is definitely a new project for us, and it's really unlike anything that Buckhannon has to offer so far. And we've actually spent like the last year trying to come up with a new idea for our restaurant. We settled on Italian, and then we found out about Alfredo's and Mamma Mia's, and we were like, so we're going to switch our plans up. And we wanted something that would be a fast, casual dining experience, something that would compete with the fast food industry in this town, but we wanted something healthier. So once we settled on Mediterranean, everything fell into place pretty quickly. We actually just came up with the idea about 2 months ago, and we're ready to open next week, so we're pretty excited. So just a little about our menu. It's going to be pretty small, but with over 30 options, all the pitas and salads, everything's going to be completely customizable. And each one of the smoothies on our menu is made up of at least 50% whole fruit. Additionally, you can add boost to the smoothies and to all of the blended coffee drinks that will provide up to 2 servings of fruits and vegetables. We'll also be adding limited time specials. Every month we'll add new smoothies, we'll add new pitas, and we can add new things as our customers let us know what they are looking for. We're going to have lots of options for vegetarians and vegans and anybody with lactose intolerance or gluten intolerances. But we'll also have lamb and beef and chicken shawarma for all the meat lovers. Eric and I are really excited because now with this new business, it means that we've created 11 new jobs here in Buckhannon, and each one of our employees is offered full benefits, including medical, dental, vision, and paid time off, and that's at both of our restaurants. So we're really excited about that. We're also super excited that Jackie Cornell has agreed to be our assistant manager because we know we have a lot to learn from her. So we are planning on opening next week. As I said, we're not announcing the date just yet. But we'll be open from Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we'll offer dine-in, delivery, and takeout. Delivery will be within a 5-mile radius. We've received so much positive feedback from everybody. We are absolutely stoked to get this thing open. So thank you guys so much. We're really excited to serve you. It's going to be on North Kanawha Street, so right next to Miss Piggy's.
God knows where that is.
That seems to be the best marker for everybody to know where we're at.
And tell me, the one sandwich is veal, lamb, it's like a concoction. It almost sounds like
lamb and beef. It's lamb and beef. It's a combination of the two. So the gyro, I think, I imagine that will be one of the most popular ones, with a tzatziki sauce and vegetables that you can add or take away, whatever you'd like to have on there. Yeah, I was hoping to be able to bring some menus. Unfortunately, they're not quite back in the printer yet.
Samples would have been better.
Yeah, I was trying to talk Eric into that. He was like, I wouldn't even know how many to bring, so we didn't do it.
Pretty good sized crowd tonight. Just for the mayor.
I'm glad, because I was like, I don't know, 8 or 10.
This is gonna help my new diet, right?
Absolutely help your new diet. You can walk over there and eat, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
It'll be perfect.
Well, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
We'll be monitoring. You don't have a specific day yet next week.
No, it will be next week, and we will announce that very, very soon, but we're not quite there yet.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Best of luck, and if you need anything from City Hall to help out with anything, just give us a yell.
Well, you guys have been awesome so far. We were on a pretty tight timeline. You helped out, get everything done pretty quick.
Glad
So,
to do this.
thank you guys so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we're going to introduce our Police Chief, Matt Gregory, and I kind of stole your thunder already, right, Matt?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Not too bad. Come on up and tell us about this new rascal that we've decided to hire.
Absolutely. I'd like to introduce Mr. Colin Cope tonight. Mr. Cope was the candidate that we selected as our new police officer after undergoing a variety of tests, both written and physical agility, as well as the interview. Tonight's ceremony will swear him in, establish his sworn status, and we anticipate beginning his appointment on Monday, April 8th, and at which time he'll undergo orientation with the police department, focusing primarily on policies, procedures, and then getting ready for the academy. And we anticipate, we've already got his paperwork together, we've been working on that. We anticipate getting that out next week and having a slot for him hopefully in July at the next police academy. So
That means graduation about September, October?
It's a 16-week program, so it should be sometime in November.
The last 2 or 3 years, Matt, I had to go down in December each time.
Yeah.
And that's tough on an old guy.
I know.
All this freezing weather. So
Hopefully we're right
inside,
amidst the fall there. So without further ado, if I could call him forward.
Matt, would you join us up front there?
I'm just getting out of the way. I'll break the camera.
They start taking pictures.
You really had to do that Penn State
That's
thing.
right.
Old Mountaineer fan and all, you know, back in the day.
It's better than Pitt.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. All right, repeat after me. I, Colin Grant Hope,
I, Colin Grant Cope,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Buckhannon, West Virginia,
the Charter and ordinances of Buckhannon, West Virginia,
and faithfully discharge my duties
and faithfully discharge my duties
as a police officer of said city
as a police officer of said city
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I'd ask that you sign your name right here. Sorry. Colin, welcome aboard. You're a
Thank
new
you.
police officer. Mrs. Cope is here. What, you should come up too and be in the picture. Come on up.
It's a family affair.
Way better looking than the bookends. You don't need to say that's right. What do you say? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because it's better. Yeah, that's good. 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you could look this way.
Oh, I look at Amanda.
Thanks. I'll do one more.
Cleveland plain dealer. Thank you. Do you have anything else you want to say, Matt? But we got you coming back up in a few minutes with your report.
I don't think so. Good job.
That's it. No, I think
That's it.
That's it for now. Colin,
JB.
Colin really does have his degrees from Penn State, where he was captain of the soccer team, by the way. So he's an athletic fellow. He's going to be way better at chasing guys down the alley than Tom Posey, right? I mean, let's face it. Don't tell Tom I said that.
It's a little late.
I just saw him getting ice cream. I'm not kidding.
It's stuffing all ice cream. So we welcome you aboard. And the missus is a biology professor at Wesleyan. So we wish you both a good long stay here in Buckhannon. So thanks for being with us. Okay, next up, we want to recognize the Stockard Youth and Community Center staff and volunteers. And Miss Deborah Brockelman, you want to come up? It's actually Mrs. Deborah Brockelman, but we teasingly call her Miss Deborah. So do you want to introduce these great folks to us this evening?
You said that you wanted work studies. We don't have work studies, but we have an eclectic bunch of awesome workers who make everything work at the Stockard Youth Center. And this isn't all of them, but because some of them had to work. But I'll call your name, and if you just stand up so we'll know who you are. April Small, she's our after-school and Camp Buccaneer coordinator. Christina Roman, she is our part-time custodian. Faith Oval, she is a high school student and she's our staff assistant. Fred was supposed to be here, he's not here.
He's back here.
I was going to say Fred's here.
Running behind, but I made it.
He's our bus driver. He's a popular guy. Hunter Fletcher, he is a longtime staff assistant, and he's also a WBWC student. John Lehman, he's a West Virginia Wesleyan Service Scholar. He's been with us for a couple years. Josh Trent, he did not make it. Kaylin Ware, she is a staff assistant also, and she's going to Fred Everly, correct?
Yeah.
Laura Osborne, she's been with us for a little while. She's a part-time staff assistant. Madison Robinson, she's a West Virginia Wesleyan Service Scholar. Madison Ware is a high school student and a staff assistant. Michaela Lane is our AmeriCorps Vista, and she's the tutoring coordinator. And Rhonda Suter is our after-school bus aide. And Jack Godlinger? Gellner. He is a tutor. That's what I said.
Well, you know, thank you. The old place is in its 25th year, and going all the way back to the very beginning. I've been associated with Stockard since its very beginning, along with Don Nestor and Rob Rupp, and I can tell you that the place absolutely would not have been sustainable these past 24 years now had it not been for number one, volunteers, but number two, our connectedness with West Virginia Wesleyan College. We could not function without you. So it just seemed appropriate before the school year gets away from us this year. I intended to do it last year, and the next thing you know, it was May and the students were all gone for the summer. But we sincerely thank you for every hour that you put in at the old place. You make a very positive difference for the children of our community, and what better way to, yeah, that's our greatest asset, are our kids. So you're a big part of that. We really, most seriously thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks again.
You're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if I had my choice, I'd be going down to check out the menu at Beat of My Heart or something. You know? I'd see things through it.
Ice cream.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks for all the work you're doing for ice cream for everybody.
You buying ice cream? I'll stay.
Ron Pugh's buying the ice cream.
I didn't see ya. I couldn't get your attention.
over the,
It exposes the back row pretty well.
it does, yeah.
It's like a Methodist church. Everybody's in church.
Yeah, over the past 3 years that I've been doing this now, it's uncanny how many people have left our employment. We've had like this mass wave of retirement. I can't work with this guy. Nah, seriously.
It's probably what they say.
It probably is. But I'm thinking back to Tim Rock and Tom Landis and Ron Kidd and Vance Funk and, oh gosh, Rick Anthony, and the list goes on and on. We have a senior staff, and at some point or another, as tough as it is to bid adieu and goodbye to some of our all-time greatest employees, we do celebrate with them that opportunity to take a deep breath and enjoy their retirement that they've worked so hard to acquire. So it's another one of those tough goodbyes tonight, but the guy is still going to be around, so it's not like he's moving to Hawaii or anything. Sue won't let him do that, right? So Dave Roby, would you join me up front, please? I'm getting my steps in tonight, Mary. Let's move it back.
Proud of you, David.
Come on up, David. And we'll have Sue join us here in a minute, too, for a good photo. All right, this is a proclamation, so you got to bear with me, the long-windedness. Whereas Dave Roby has faithfully, honorably, and excellently served the city of Buckhannon for more than 18 years, having commenced his long tenure with our city in 2001, and has served for more than 18 years as one of our city's most excellent waste collection employees, all with great distinction, while constantly demonstrating a work ethic beyond reproach, and who, according to one supervisor, works circles around our younger guys. And whereas Mr. Roby has served our waste collection operations during many important initiatives, playing a very important role in establishing Buckhannon's waste collection department as one of the finest utility operations in the entire state of West Virginia, and whereas Dave Roby recently announced his well-earned retirement from his long tenure with our city of Buckhannon, effective at the end of March 2019, having further worked for decades in the saw and rail mill, drilling, log home construction, and furniture delivery industries. And whereas our city government, and particularly our city council and waste collection board, now desires to formally recognize Dave Roby's long commitment to the advancement of our city's waste collection department during his many years of service, and further to express our city's most heartfelt appreciation for his leadership and many substantial contributions that have helped establish Buckhannon as one of the very finest and most outstanding communities in West Virginia, while wishing him, and you see I got Sue's name in there, and his wife Sue, who is also one of our city's longest tenured employees, the very best during Dave's much-deserved retirement. Now therefore, I, as mayor of the city of Buckhannon and chair of our waste collection board, pursuant to the power and authority duly vested in me, do hereby proclaim Thursday, April 4, 2019, to be Dave Roby Day throughout our city of Buckhannon. I further urge all of our community's residents to join me, Dave Roby's family, our city council, the members of our waste collection department, and all of our city's employees in expressing their most heartfelt thanks and appreciation for Dave Roby's most excellent service to our community, and in wishing him the very best in his retirement. Given under my hand and the official seal of the city of Buckhannon this 4th day of April, 2019. Dave, congratulations. Sue, you should come up. Come on up, Sue.
Yeah. Want to do one with just you two and then...
Katie and Callie and Amanda can all forward you their photos. And we have the new Record Delta reporter here who I failed to recognize. We'll have to let you introduce yourself here in a second. Jerry Arnold and is Jeff Walmsley still here?
Yeah.
Come on up, guys. Come get a picture with these rascals. Jerry was Dave's immediate supervisor for many years, and still to some extent is as Public Works Director. And Jeff has been head of waste collection for the past several years now, and has further tried to groom Dave into the man he is, right, Jeff? Yeah. I believe that, Dave. Oh, you look a little tighter. Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, you can look. Okay, thank you.
The old place won't be the same without you. We're gonna miss you. Absolutely.
Enjoy your retirement. Congratulations.
Sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna miss you. I'll see you downstairs.
I've often wondered why you give these proclamations at the end of the day that they are being honored.
At the end of the day?
Yeah.
Sometimes we give them early.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'll
Too late to go downstairs. Hey, this is my day.
Let's move our meetings to 12:01 a.m.
I think probably that'll be a good idea.
Maybe a lot quicker.
Well, we can clean out.
Next up is Aaron Harris, or did you want to wait till we got further down to talk about, or do you want to start us out and then we could segue into that and
Introduce the record.
maybe bring it to the table? You want
Let's
to
do that.
Okay, Aaron. One of my old little leaguers, so that tells you how long ago it's been since I coached baseball.
I've got a piece of paper here. I'll go over it as I present, but that way if you have any questions, you can put it in.
Thank you.
How you doing? All right. Good evening, folks. Appreciate the time to speak here. I'm going to speak on behalf of the Brushy Fork sewer line extension project, just kind of give you, which is later in the agenda, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what all is possibly to happen out there. As many of you all know, my wife and I, Tasha Harris, are going to be purchasing property from the Upshur County Development Authority beside the event center, which is inside of city limits. And which will be more discussion later about the sewer line, but we wanted to kind of give you an idea and a clarification of what we plan to do out there on that property. First off, I'd like to thank the City of Buckhannon, the Mayor and Council, of course, for the support up to this date, and just like to give you a run of what the plan is. As many of you all know, I have been in the auction business. This year will be starting the 12th year in Upshur County. Started that when I was 18. Since when we first started out, I've been actually renting facilities, and that will soon change. Our LLC, which is A&T Enterprises, which also own the Daily Grind as well, we'll be looking at putting 3 businesses on this property: an auction house, an outpost, which is somewhat of a retail store, and the Daily Grind. The building size will be approximately 11,900 square feet. We have been approved by our local financial institution for our funding, and we are ready to rock and roll once we close on the property. The auction house being 4,800 square feet. Currently, believe it or not, there's 575, give or take, depending on the day, licensed auctioneers in the state of West Virginia. Out of that 575, only 10 to 15 actually own their own auction house. Most of that is rented facilities or travel, have a gavel wheel travel, so to speak. In 2018, I held 48 auctions with an attendance of 130 people. 70% of that attendance were out of town customers, not just out of city. I'm talking out of county as well. So we're looking at, looking at bringing several people into our city with auction goers, because I have auctions on Saturday nights. They come out, they come downtown, enjoy all of our activities we have in Buckhannon, and then also come to the auction Saturday evening. Most of the time, which are eating at restaurants before they come to the auction. Also, in 2018, I was fortunate enough to be awarded the SBA's Young Entrepreneur of the Year for the auction business, and was very humbling and grateful for that. A lot of hard work paid off there, and with it really meant a lot to me there. Also, on our outpost, the retail store, which would be another 4,800 square feet facility, which is all attached together, we'll be looking at selling antiques, work clothes, country chic boutique items, a tax shop, bulk candy, local goods, Amish furniture, and also local fresh meats that we raise off of our farm. Have a freezer case there where people can come in and buy retail cuts, locally grown, not but about 12 miles from downtown of Buckhannon. And we also want to stress on the local goods that we'll be carrying, as many local products as we can have in that facility. Also, the little buzz around town was about the Daily Grind possibly opening back up. Looking to be about a 2,300 square foot facility there, with a little bit different than what we were before. It'll be a coffee shop with a grab and go style. We have daily specials, also with a drive-through, also catering. Also the catering, which actually has continued since we left Main Street a year and a half ago. So we have continued with our catering business, and we look forward to bringing that back with the drive-through with a little different concept than what we had before. We want our business that we're putting out there, all three businesses, to be a destination. To be a destination for people to come to the city of Buckhannon. Because we are looking at pulling tourists that are traveling up through 33. We are also looking to get to our local auction goers, of course, and then also local business as well. And we are also excited to be a neighbor to the event center on Brushy Fork, who I think we both will complement each other quite well. We are very excited to be there beside them. And just in closing, I'd like to thank you all for your support so far, and look forward to having your support as we continue the economic development out there. And because my wife and I, this is our hometown. This is where we were born and raised, and we want to continue to do business here.
What's that little person's name that you are posting on?
And Rayleigh, our little dirt girl, so she's 2 years old. So, but so Buckhannon is our hometown, and we want to continue to do our business here. We want to look at opening up putting all three businesses under one roof, and I believe that it will be a big attribute to the city of Buckhannon, and I think we look forward to be part of that.
I'm looking down under strategic items. Aaron, we've got a jam-packed meeting full of lots of stuff before we would get down there, so that we don't keep you here. And Jerry Arnold just left the room, didn't he? So I was counting on him to weigh in.
Right there, he's coming.
Jerry's coming.
Yeah.
That's good.
Can I motion that we bring this to the table?
Yes, Mr. Skinner has made a motion to bring F5 to the table, seconded by Mr. Rylands. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of bringing F5 to the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. F5 is now before the council. I will tell you that we've had conversations with Aaron. I've spoken with him. Buck Tenney has spoken with Aaron. Sam Ludlow's met with Aaron. And what came out of this, as we were first starting to look at a possibility of a substantial sewer line extension, a project that is estimated to cost $100,000, that would serve not only the properties that Aaron's developing, but also some properties on the periphery of the property that's titled with the Upshur County Development Authority. That includes property owned by Linda Wellings, C.J. Martin, and Neil Rohr. And there might be a few others out there, but those are the more substantial properties. So in any event, we got a $100,000 project as estimated by our city engineer, and that's where we stand with it. At the sanitary board meeting 2 weeks ago, discussion was had about this project, and the sanitary board resolved that if we were successful in raising the funds from the participating parties to the extent of 50% of the project, that the sanitary board would partner with the general fund, and that's the reason this is before the city council this evening, to realize the project. So I believe, and Jerry, you can correct me if I'm correct or incorrect, I believe the sanitary board was prepared to pony up $20,000 toward this project if the general fund would go $30,000. Since that meeting a couple of weeks ago, there's been additional discussion, and Aaron has pointed out, look, I'm already in the city limits. I'm bringing these things to the table that you highlighted for us a little bit ago with these businesses. And gee, instead of turning to me for, say, a $10,000 contribution to sewer installation, since I'm already in the city, how about you give me a break on this? And does that sort of capture things in a nutshell? So the plan is already changing. But in fairness to the other folks who also are soliciting this sewage service and who tentatively have committed to paying, in some instances, tens of thousands of dollars to help make this project come to fruition, I would like to propose to the council that we go back to the other potential participants, and if they would agree to annex their properties, which collectively consist of about 150 acres of land in the Brushy Fork Valley, that the council work with the sanitary board to establish a new formula that would not require any private participation, and rather the general fund and the sanitary board would cover 100% of the installation costs.
Do you need a motion to that effect? Because I like that.
I would entertain a motion and a second, and then we can more thoroughly discuss it.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Rieger has made the motion, Mr. Skinner has seconded the motion. We will now have council discussion.
So if this is agreed upon, then what if the other participants that are currently outside the city limits say no and don't want to come into the city limits?
Then I would count on them for their continuing promised contributions to the project, and we would treat the Harrises in the way that recognizes them being in the city limits, and we wouldn't be turning to them for any further financial contribution to the project.
Which is...
So either way, I think tonight we want the city to partner with the sanitary board in some manner, whichever recipe it is, to commit to the further development of the Brushy Fork Valley.
Have you, David, had an opportunity or anybody to talk to the individuals that are not in the city limits now, but would be part of the extension of this?
There has been specific discussion with C.J. Martin, Linda Wellings, and Neil Rohr.
And they're positive as far as annexation?
We have never discussed with them the annexation element to this yet.
Because I think that's important.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. We're not going to, you know, be high-handed and say, okay, you come in the city, and we'll have the discussion with them.
Our motion's just to offer this.
That's correct.
Annexation in exchange for opting out of contributing to the cost of the installation of the sanitary.
That's correct.
But should it also say that regardless that the Harris development receives 100% contribution from the city as far as the line extension to its property?
I come in my motion to include that specifically.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's would you like to amend your motion and put that on the table?
Yes. I amend my motion to say we will offer annexation in exchange for sanitary line installation costs for owners outside of city limits and excuse owners inside of city limits from any further contribution to the cost of the sanitary extension.
Second.
I already seconded.
I'm seconding the amendment. Mr. Rollins is seconding the amendment.
The amendment.
Yeah. So now further discussion on the amended motion. Mr. Skinner.
Okay, so
you're going to amend it again, aren't you?
No, I'm good with it. I just want to make sure that, I mean, I believe that we absolutely have a responsibility to a property owner within the city limits to make sure that we are treating them as though, you know, we absolutely appreciate their contribution and that their presence in this community. This is what we're here to do. I mean, we are supposed to be, you know, encouraging business development, and I'm proud of us that we're taking this step. I do want to make sure, however, that in doing this, before we commit, or before we even begin any construction to the properties outside of the current boundary, that we have signatures on a page that those properties will come into the city limits. We have had issues before where gentlemen's agreements have been formed and the paperwork has been slid back across the table after the city has contributed to the development. So I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and we are protecting our citizens and our businesses that are currently paying that this is going to be on the backs of, that we are going to assume those properties in the city limits before we start the construction to those properties.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mr. O'Neill and I will work up the necessary particulars, and we'll have those individual conversations with particularly C.J. Martin and Linda Wellings, who are the primary. They haven't been given the choice of not having to pay any money yet.
Right,
So,
right. That's fine.
Either way, as I'm understanding the motion that's before this council, and then we'll discuss it more if we need to, tonight, in collaboration with our sanitary board, this council wants to commit to this project and bring it to fruition.
Yes.
Now, if some may ask, oh, this is a sewer function. Why wouldn't the sanitary board undertake the whole thing? Well, we've just stabilized the finances of the sanitary board. And the fruits to be reaped from this project and the development of that valley as a result of properties coming into the corporate limits will be realized by the general fund.
Correct.
So it's only fair, we shouldn't shoulder our sanitary board with a massive project when they've just gotten their heads above water.
These are similar practices that have been followed in the past.
Absolutely.
And the general fund has participated in all of those other projects as well. So we're not doing anything here that hasn't been done before by this body.
That's absolutely correct. The 25, 30 acres that were brought in back in the early 2000s, where Lowe's is located, that was made entirely possible as a result of collaboration with private entities who needed utilities in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, look, in order, because we're right, you're right. We had made those overtures before, and when it came time to sign the papers, things didn't happen the way they should have. Well, Lowe's signed the papers, and Dave Rexha had signed the papers, and now you know what that development means to our tax base. Similar to the Walmart development.
Right.
That's made a huge difference for our general fund.
Right.
So, is there any further discussion on the motion? I see Rob Hinton back there. Rob, did you show up to speak on this, or?
No, I should. I'm just supporting Aaron, and we're just appreciative of the city making this contribution. Absolutely, this is a good partnership.
Well,
thank you.
I think we think so. We'll find out here in a minute.
Oh.
Tom?
Well, I'll talk later. I'll do my thing later.
While we've been talking, I texted this to my wife, and Aaron, you're gonna break me. You're gonna break. You're gonna break me. I spend all of my money on that.
That's good. That'll help pay the mayor's lofty salary. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The minutes will reflect that the motion carries unanimously. And we'll get in touch with our sewer folks, or at least Jerry or I, one or the other of us will, to try to fast track this exciting project so that we can get you connected out there with the sewage sooner than later. So, yep. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks for your commitment to our community. Thanks, guys.
I'm still proud of you, Aaron.
Still?
Oh, you're such a young boy.
Before we get any further into our meeting, there are a number of college students here from my business law class. They have this fate worse than death that they have to attend a council meeting. So, Mr. McLeod, we'll start with you. The tradition is that you stand and face the camera, give your name, hometown, and your major course of study. So, we'll start with McLeod and then move back to Holcomb, Banks, and Cumberland.
All right, I'm David McLeod. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'm a business admin major with a chem minor. And what was the other thing that you wanted?
Hometown?
Oh, hometown's Orlando.
Orlando.
Yeah. And then I play baseball.
And MK.
And MK, yeah.
Holcomb, Lewis, Banks. Who wants to go next?
Kenneth Lewis. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm major sports business. That's really also all you want to know, right?
Yeah. And who's your advisor up at the college?
McCully.
Yeah.
Get a new one.
My name is Roger Holcomb. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. My major is sports business. That's about it.
Yep, good.
My name is Desmond Banks. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland too. My major is sports business as well.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck to you. We're ready to move into our department board reports, and first up is our information coordinator and grant researcher writer, Callie Cronin-Sams. Callie, how's it going?
Great. You have in your packet the report I put together, and starts out with our social media posts. We had quite a few posts that did quite well this past couple weeks. We've got some new trees in at the dog park. Welcome Jester Line to the community, and Dave Roby's retirement, and as well as, of course, the flowers are always a hit, so we had shared some photos. Elizabeth, our service scholar, had taken those photos. And let's see, what else? Oh, the Rotary's pledge of $10,000 to the Stalker Youth Expansion, and Dr. Reed's award all did, got over 2,000 shares there, or views, I should say. We've got the Arbor Day coming up next Friday, and April Make It Shine Month is ongoing, so we've had the free days at the Waste Department, as well as we're, and just encouraging everybody to take an opportunity in the spring to clean up their properties, and also maybe consider participating in our Make It Shine cleanup at City Park on the 13th. Let's see. And grants, I've got a few different ones that I've been working on. One of which is in strategic as well, but it's approval to submit just a letter of intent. So this is not a full application, this is just a letter of intent. You could, at time to submit the full application, decide you did not wish to do so. So that's the 21st Century Community Learning Center. Looking at that for some combination of Stockert or theater or both. The intent to apply letter is due on the 19th, and the full application is due on May 30th. It is through our West Virginia Department of Education, but it's federal funding through the Department of Education, and that's funneled through the state office. And it is funding that's for programmatic, so it cannot be used for capital expenses, but it can be used for programming and for bringing in more enrichment type activities and after school and summer programs. For the first 3 years, it's 100% federally funded, so there's no match whatsoever. And the 4th and 5th year goes to a 20% and then 30% match if you're able to continue it going, because they want to see that you are starting to sustain it. So I've been working with Deborah a little bit on that, and has reached out to Academy with the principal there, as well as the Board of Education. I talked to their federal programs person today and talked about possibly collaborating with them. I'd like to see a lot of collaboration with the school system from the get-go. So before you've even developed a full proposal, see that you've been working together to create this program. So they sounded very interested, and so I look forward to talking to them further. So that was a long-winded way of saying I don't have a full proposal for you, but we do need to, if we think we might like to apply, we need to go ahead and submit the letter of intent. And all that is just a single page form saying who we are. We think we're going to submit an application. If we change our minds, you just let them know that we're actually not going to, and it allows them to know how many reviewers they're going to need on their selection committee. So that's what's before you today.
Kelly and I had talked at fair length about this. The maximum award, as I understand it, is $110,000 per year.
For a single site.
And you can apply for multiple sites. So the thinking is, why would we not apply for both the Stockert Youth and Community Center as well as the Colonial Theater? So if you authorized our letter of intent to put grant applications together for both facilities, we're looking at $220,000 a year for the first 3 years, and then 80% of that in year 4 and 70% of that in year 5, which would make this about a $1 million grant application.
And
so this is
potentially
huge.
$15,000 per summer as well, an additional $15,000 if you have an existing summer program, which of course Stockert already does.
There you go.
And it's not a matching grant?
Well, not until years 4 and 5.
Right.
Then you got to match it 20%,
right,
and then 30%. But we're talking with the $15,000 for the summer program that I forgot about, this would eclipse $1 million in federal funding coming to Stockard and or the Colonial Theater.
I do have a couple.
This would just be for the letter of intent, and then we would, between now and May 30th, we would have additional conversations, review the specifics with the grant application, and council would be naturally be involved with giving the thumbs up to file the applications. Yeah, Dave, I would entertain a motion that I be authorized to sign these letters of intent.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Thomas, a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And if any of you are wondering, well, why did we need to do that if it's not even the full application? They actually asked that you do that for the intent also, so I'm not just trying to waste your time. It was a requirement.
You're not wasting our time.
Okay. The Department of Highways has also released their Transportation Alternatives Program and Recreational Trails programs that we've looked at in the past for both sidewalk development and the Riverwalk extension. So we're looking at that again. I've been working with Jay and Jerry on that. As nice as they are down in Charleston, they've decided to have the intent to apply, and the full application date's very similar to the Community Learning Center one. So those are 4/26 and 5/31. So we're working on that for you for next time. And then down the road a little bit, it seems like the REAP, the Good Neighbor program, has gone well over the past year. So we may want to look at reapplying for that litter control REAP grant. That's the litter control that comes first. The recycling grant through REAP is later in the summer. So that's it for grants. You have on the back what we have up on the LED sign right now is just information about the Make It Shine. And also we were approached by the library to share information about their fundraiser, their ramp dinner that they hold each year. So we have that up right now as well. That's pretty much it.
Questions for Callie? And the next big thing for us is next Friday, the Arbor Day celebration down at the Riverwalk.
Yes, correct. From
New
1 to 4.
trees being dedicated and the whole bit.
New trees are there, and AmeriCorps Claire Ferguson, who's with Division of Forestry, will be there and bringing some folks to do some activities, and I think the CDC children are going to come over, and it's also open to the public, so anyone that wants to bring their kids over, will be right there next to the dog park.
Our horticulturist, Rob Barber, is a good negotiator, because I was asking for another tree in Jawbone Park, and he said, well, you know, things are getting a little tight down there. How about I give you about 20 new trees down at the dog park? I said, well, that's a good deal. We'll do that. So, yeah, we're excited to see the new plantings. Questions for Callie? Thanks, Callie. Keep up the great work. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Callie.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to comment that the work being done at the intersection right down here, the handicapped accessibility for Crossworks, which has been an undertaking for a long time trying to get finished. I'm very happy to see that's being done now.
We're getting there, Ron. Slow but sure. Next up is Deborah Brockelman, SYCC Director. Deborah, how's it going?
Very well. Actually, everything's going pretty well. We put our camp registrations out this week, and they're going like hotcakes. We, as you know, we're licensed for 60 a day, and we usually have around 120 campers that, you know, don't come every day. So it's looking like that's going to be the case this summer as well. We have the field trips and activities and guest speakers pretty much planned. Pool passes have raised this summer. They'll be at $55 per camper, which is still a good deal if the child comes every day and we get a swim. But as you know, last year we had a rainy summer, so it's still a good deal. Also, we're going to be training our camp staff in the next month, and we have gotten some training videos through a grant that Callie had gotten through the volunteer center. So, and the trainings are they're really good. I previewed them, and I think it'll be good for our younger staff as well. And we'll also be doing the CPR and first aid training for the new hires for the fire department. And as you know, last Thursday, we had a visit from Suddenlink to promote Women in History Month with the History Channel, and they presented us with $500 to go towards our capital campaign. They brought goodie bags for the kids and a snack, and as always, whenever they come, the kids really enjoyed it. Also, we did our popcorn and movie night. We only actually had 20 kids come, but the parents were really thrilled that we actually had this for them, and I think that if we do start doing this, it'll be well attended. We did find out that we do have to have a license. Things have changed from years ago, so we do have a license to show movies, but we can only do it at Stalker. We cannot do it anywhere else because that's what the license will say. We talked about doing outdoor movies, like in the summer, such as like a movie in the park type situation. This license does not cover that. If we would do that, we would have to go online to the website and we would have to pay a fee individually to do that sort of thing. And we're not allowed to charge for a movie. We can have concessions, but we cannot charge for a movie. So I know some people had questions about that, and that's the things that have changed with that. Also, we have the summer youth care pool parties planned, and I have those dates listed there. Primarily, it's the third Saturday in June, July, and August. Oh, except for August is the 10th now because the pool's probably closing earlier. And we'll have the National Night Out pool party on the 5th and the July 6th party for the middle schoolers, but all those dates are listed. And I'd asked for chaperones, and I'm going to come up with a sign-up sheet. So it's just not the mayor, myself, and Amanda.
This is the 12th year already.
Yeah,
I can believe it.
we seem to be the ones that are chaperoned, but we need to get some new people in there helping us. Also, the Children's Festival, we're looking at that, and it's not until September, but we wanted to get the date out there. And the way the calendar falls this year, it would make us having the Children's Festival, because we always have it the third Saturday, and the Fall Fest back to back. And that's a lot for us, and it's a lot for the street department, and also with the Truck Fest, it's always with the Children's Festival. So in order to just have a week between, we moved the Children's Festival up a week, which would be September the 14th. And then the Fall Fest is scheduled for September 27th and 28th. So that gives us a week in between the two activities that are very well attended. And actually, that's all I have. I have the list for the minutes of the volunteers and staff that attended.
In addition to the $500 gift from Suddenlink, there was another anonymous contribution. Do you want to mention that to the council?
We still have a GoFundMe page. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay. After Saturday, we received another $1,000 anonymously.
$1,600 last week toward the capital campaign.
And actually, we've been invited to apply for the Warehouser grant again. As you know, we got $10,000 a few months ago to go for things within the new multi-purpose building. And they told us, again, ask for what you need, and you don't ask for it, you don't get it. So, and this year, they're going to be awarding it in the first part of July. So we need to apply for that pretty quickly.
Keep chipping away.
Yeah.
Get that building one of these days.
Yes, we will.
Questions for Deborah? Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thank good work.
Thanks, Deborah.
Next up is our Public Works Director, Jerry Arnold. How's it going on, man?
Very good. Very well. Director's report, actually just a couple things that I have to mention.
One is not in my report. We had the LPAT, West Virginia LPAT come in, and they wanted to do a story on for their newsletter, their quarterly newsletter, on the city of Buckhannon's safety coordinators that we presented into each department, and what it did for our workers' compensation and that kind of thing. So they come down, Namby and Callie and I met with lady, and they're going to do a story. Of course, when they do, Callie will back it up with a story, but just want council to know that they were very interested in the implementation of the safety coordinator program that we've implemented. Had a couple meetings with Alan Stevens, and I bring this up because I think it's very exciting. New business coming into town that the city's partnering with, so to speak, allowing him to set up in our park. But Alan has bought out Taggart River Outfitters, and he'll be setting up a booth down at the Wood Street boat ramp this summer, and he'll be running kayaks and tubes and things like that to do day trips from be shuttling people up to Hampton and letting them kayak down the river to the Wood Street area. He has a couple other trips, maps and trips that folks can take, but I thought that rather interesting and another opportunity for Buckhannon, something else to do in town. The water department work continues on the early warning monitoring system. The tests on the new water line on Route 20 came back good. Sewer department, the Crew 1 continues to work on Brushy Fork. Of course, the report from Stockard was the sewer gas issue at Stockard's been taken care of, or at least Deborah reported that she hasn't had issues with it anymore, correct, Deborah? And of course, the maintenance crews are still working on that trailer, and the plant crew, the inspection that went well, report on last meeting. The waste department fabrication on speaker brackets for Jawbone sound is completed. We'll be installing those probably next week, and then painting the steel structure. Still awaiting the delivery of the new canopy for Jawbone, but all that's in the works. We've cleared an area out at the waste complex site for relocation of our brush incinerator. Street's been really busy. We've started the pothole patching. The blacktop plant at Elkins has opened, so we've been actually today I think we got one load today in. The steel wall Trader's Alley's been erected, partially painted. Again, we'll complete that painting next week along with the installation of the speaker brackets and Jawbone. Continue to work on the sidewalks on North Locust Street. Since the water line's completed, we'll be able to complete that project. The sidewalks are completed along South Florida Street. All sidewalks that were part of the sidewalk assistance program have been completed this spring that we've had participation on. They've knocked those out. And we're building a new flower bed along Friendly Way to soften up that parking lot edge. Engineering, the ACP water system improvements, the installation tie-in of the water line next to Pizza Hut's been completed. Cleanup activities on both contract 1 and 2 has begun. The water department water storage tank inspections. Jay began working on the bid package for the inspection, possible cleaning of all the water storage tanks in the distribution system except for Victoria Hill number 2. Total of 5. If funding permits, cleaning of the tank's interior surface will also take place. Water department demolition of the St. Joseph's water storage tank. He began working on the bid package for the demolition of the old St. Joseph's tank, and all material and equipment above the existing concrete pad will be demolished and removed from the site. And that's all I have under my report, unless there's questions.
A couple of quick things. Any further updates on either the Gateway West project or the State ADA 88 intersect points?
They have started that project. They're out on the Elkins Road right now, working. You see them here at Dave Cook's store working on those. So again, my initial contact with the contractor, he believed that he would, 2 weeks, he could knock them all out. But his contract also ended the first day of April. That was his finish date on the contract. So
We would have
he's
liked that
behind
guy at
already.
McDonald's, right?
Yeah. Let's hope not. But he's in town, he's working, and actually, he, we allow him to store some materials down at our site, so we have pretty much daily contact with him.
And he's got 88 sites to do?
88 ramps, yes.
That's amazing to do that. Yeah, that's fast work.
Hey Jerry, the sidewalk assistant program, was that just on Florida Street or was it throughout the whole town?
No, it's throughout town, CJ. We had sidewalks that we hadn't gotten to under that program for a year and a half, 2 years in some cases. And the guys set in and just knocked out everything that we had participation on. So to this point, we're caught up. We're still on hold on the bank. The bank wanted to replace that sidewalk, so we're still on a hold. Brad's making contact with them as to what their plans could be for the parking lot area. So, you know, once that's committed to, or once we get it on that project, then of course we'll want to go ahead and knock that out all the way down to the intersection with Locust Street when we're on that. So lots of sidewalks to be done. As far as the Gateway West Mayor, we're still waiting the notice to proceed on it. As soon as we have notice to proceed, we'll start demolition on that project.
Have any conversations been had with the owners of properties from 39 South Florida Street south to about 43?
We have not, probably.
That is bad.
Yes, yes. I had mentioned it to one of the property owners back some time ago, and it wasn't real well received at that time. But Brad, I know Brad has not talked with him since then, so we'll try to put that on the radar to do.
Yeah, because if we don't demand something, they're just gonna keep letting it go down the, it is dangerous.
There again, that's, you know, you try to convince them that it's in their best interest to
participate in a 50-50.
Because again, they're liable for someone getting hurt on that sidewalk, but it's hard sometimes to twist arms to get participation.
I just start walking over there. The alternative is the property owner pays for 100%, including engineering and design and everything else, and they're allowed to pay it if we did an assessment on the property over the course of 5 years.
Yes.
So it'd be better to have the city partner with you.
Yeah, but they may not make that decision until they're confronted with that alternative.
Yeah. We could housing enforcement on that too. Not so much on sidewalks, Dave. But we have there's other legal mechanisms relative to sidewalks that we can explore. So.
Jerry, I guess ask nicely one more time. Huh?
Yeah.
We'll go with you, Jerry, if you need some help. Jerry, there's one, when you go down Smithfield Street towards the town, and you get on Lincoln there, if you're taking a left to go to Canal, you cannot see traffic coming at you. There's some huge bushes there that I think need to be dealt with. You know where I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have Robbie take a look at it.
Yeah, it needs to be trimmed back.
Anything else for Mr. Arnold?
I have a question about the property on Barber Street. Glad to see you guys trim the trees. Did you do anything to the tree in front of Zabur's house that dips out over the sidewalk? And
we haven't.
I saw not a kid, a young man coming up here the other day to ride his bike. He had a helmet on, unfortunately, but his head hit that.
Did it clothesline him off his bike?
No, it didn't quite get him that much.
Yeah,
but the top of his head grazed that, and he kind of woke him up a little bit.
That's one of those areas that it's a dead end right there. The boards too, was right in there. It actually gets down in front of him.
Yeah, but when Richard was there, he wouldn't allow you to do anything.
Well, he didn't want us to, no.
Well, yeah, but and you didn't want to upset him any more than he was. So, but he's in the VA hospital now over at Clarksburg. He's in
All right, let's keep to this agenda, guys. Looking down at the agenda before we let Jerry leave, and so that we can let him leave. In case you didn't know, he got conked on the head really good the other day, and he needs to go home and rest. So there's F7, which is the approval of readdressing, mapping, renumbering of Chancery Street. I would entertain a motion that we bring that to the floor.
Second.
I have a motion by Rigger, a second by Skinner. Discussion on the motion, no. Call for the question. All those in favor of bringing F7 to the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. F7 is now on the table. Jerry, you want to
Well,
hit
first
the
of all,
highlights?
I'd ask not for approval tonight to do the addressing changes. I would ask that this council allow us to continue to work on that, because I would want to send letters out to each one of the property owners first and give them a chance to come back to a council meeting. But we had a request for a new address at the old jail, and it was for the Women's Aid in Crisis. And in looking at that, Shayla brought up that the numbering system on Chancery Street was just erratic. It was both ends, numbers on both sides. It was just a mess. And I said, you know, while we're doing this, we need to clean that up. And we, you know, the mapping ordinance, the addressing mapping ordinance, we, as a council at the time, we didn't want to take on readdressing the whole city. And we kind of went with, as it becomes apparent that we have an issue in the area, or in a case like this, and that's what we've tried to do, is as it became an issue, it came to us, we tried to renumber, do whatever to make it right. So that's where we're at. You have a list there of the old addresses, what would be the new addresses. The largest, or the one that would be most effective in that, because I don't believe currently, other than some apartments in the Evans buildings, there's not currently any businesses that I know of there. So Ralston Press was kind of the what we worked out from. Ralston had an address of 16, so not changing Ralston Press's address, because we figured that would be the most difficult for the change. We went through and kind of numbered from the bottom of the street up towards Main Street, and were able to figure out a mechanism that would work there. I've already sent a copy of it, Shayla has, to Mary Jo Bennett for her review and to go over with the county, because there is a couple in their building that's affected there in the old jail building. Yeah. So it's out there. The council, like I said, for action, really all I'm asking to do is submit the letters out to the property owners. And then we'll put it on the agenda for the next council meeting, and then if we have any complaints or any problems with it, we'll let those folks speak and go from there if you'd like.
So I'd entertain a motion to allow Jerry Arnold to proceed with this plan. I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh, second to his motion, Mr. Thomas?
Me.
Oh, Mr. Rollins, I apologize, bad here. I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Jerry, go home and rest.
Just one more thing there, if I may jump ahead of Andy and Tom again. Chief Kimball left on that accident, and he asked that I give his report. So just quickly, he wanted to thank Lowe's, Chad Corley, for the refrigerator and the stove, and also he donated a piece of carpet for an arson class they're having this weekend. And just as a note, I know that I got an email and everyone, or the mayor and Andy, I think, they're doing that arson class down there, so there will be a period of 15 or 20 minutes that there will be some smoke in the parking lot there at the fire station. So if you get calls, that's what's happening down there. But again, that's for an arson investigation class. There was a letter from Elkins about the use of the fire truck. The SAFER grant was submitted. They're getting ready for the festival and starting to have planning meetings for that. Doing fire lane inspections and burning regulations. The promotional exams will be April 9th. Lieutenant Elmore and Baxter taking captain, and firefighter Baxter taking lieutenant tests. And then he had his report, but report that I've seen has already been on Facebook, so I'm sure it's been out on any media. So that's all he had.
He You did a good job there, Chief Ronald.
I need a white shirt.
There you go. We'll come up with something.
We'll get you a badge.
Next is Amy Jenkins, our Director of Finance and Administration, AKA Moneybags.
My report's pretty quick tonight, so this is the meeting that I give you the general fund balances ending March 31st. General fund's checking $861,718. The CD remains at $83,704. Stockert Youth Center capital campaign is at $270,892, counting the pledges that we've not received yet. Coal tax checkings $42,910. Municipal stabilization $511,763. Expenses to note for the month of March. We contributed the $25,000 from general fund to Consolidated Public Works Board. There was $6,443 spent in concrete for sidewalks at 13 Meade, 61 Smithfield, 59 Smithfield, and Traders Alley. And then we received the rents from the utility boards. The utility boards pay rent to the general fund for using City Hall, $30,000 per year, and that's collectively. The auction company that was approved to do our online auctions came in this past week and took pictures of and documented equipment that we have and will be sold online in May. There's a list of equipment in the packet with all the departments. It shows what department the equipment's from. At the next city council meeting, I'll ask you to approve that list to sell that equipment. We do need to take the backhoe off of it. They just realized that one of the backhoes broke down and they're just going to pull the motor from this one and scrap the rest of it. Let's see. We'll have to do the required legal notice in the newspaper just noting that we were going to have a sale of this equipment. We opened the bids. Rich came and we opened the bids for the computer server and software networking. That's our large server that serves our entire general ledger, payroll, utility billing. Pretty much every software we run runs on the server. Bid came in at $52,767. Then I'm discussing financing with them now, so at the next meeting I'm going to approach you with financing on that for 2 to 3 years.
Maybe that bid is a few $1,000s less than what we had projected.
It was less than what I expected it to be, about 60. Yeah. So yeah. It's like buying a truck for the departments, my server. And then I had a nice surprise this week. The state auditor, John McCuskey himself, came in the office and delivered a P-card bonus check. They switched P-card vendors, and there was a sign-on in which they gave bonus to the city, to the state for allowing them to sign on to that. And instead of the state keeping it, they distributed it amongst all the P-card users.
Wow.
And our share of that was $2,261. Wow. So that was pretty nice to have him come himself and do it. So that's what?
I said pennies from almost.
Oh yeah, that was really nice. So that's my report.
Questions for Amy Jenkins?
Do we have any update on our health insurance?
I sent those surveys out to both agents, and they've actually sent back a couple questions this week. And I'm kind of updated on that. So I'm hoping they're going to start bringing in, giving me quotes. I would expect by next council meeting we'll have some quotes.
Are they going to make a presentation?
I believe I'm going to ask them to come and present. I would rather they present their numbers than me.
Yeah.
Would you want the council to participate in that?
I'll have them come to the council meeting, the next council meeting, if that's okay. I expect they'll have numbers for me very soon.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate all that you do and our out front staff as well. Chief Kimball's report's already been delivered by Jerry Arnold. Takes us down to City Attorney Tom O'Neill. How's it going, Tom?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize to the council for my lack of neck wear tonight.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I thought I'd get a chance to go home.
Violation.
I thought I'll put money in the fine jar in the break room. I thought I'd get a chance to go home and grab a tie.
There you go.
I'm holding the jar.
Right off too. Let me first, while it's kind of top of mind with everybody with Mr. Harris and his project, I just kind of note that a review of the zoning ordinance. That property is zoned under the military district, and I think we're going to need to recommend submit that for his expressed intended uses at least. Have Planning Commission take a look at that and rezone that. Probably industrial or C2, I don't know. What might be most appropriate for that. We might leave that. We'll leave that up to them, of course. But the uses described tonight don't fit within the permitted uses for the military zone.
So what would we offer the people that we're going to ask to join the annexed into the city? Wouldn't it be valuable to them to know how they're going to be zoned?
Well, I mean, we can consult with the when they're annexed in, they're automatically zoned R1. So we're going to have to rezone them. They're going to have to be rezoned, no matter what they will be rezoned to. And a lot of them are probably C2 would probably.
Their contemporaneous uses are grandfathered. So Mr. Martin's building, he's free to essentially do anything that he's going to be doing at the time the annexation was effected. He can continue to do that. Now, Welling's and Rohr's properties are basically vacant tracts. So they would want to weigh in on how they would like to have their properties.
Yeah, because currently they can do anything and everything they want. They would probably like as broad a application as possible.
Sure.
Right. And I think the Planning Commission will have, they'll have to be brought in as part of that discussion. We certainly can't make decisions for them.
Sure.
In any event, Jerry mentioned Day Trippin' Adventures. I met with Mr. Stevens as well yesterday and prepared a letter agreement for his use that Consolidated voted to approve his use, so that can be executed and we can move forward on that immediately. I've also prepared, in the event that council adopts the matter listed under F3, I've prepared a letter agreement for the Elkins Volunteer Fire Department to sign with respect to their temporary use of engine 11 that they've requested. So if that's approved, that is ready to go first thing tomorrow morning if it's gotten to. There is on the opioid litigation that we are party to, received an update yesterday that there is going to be a meeting held by the special master who's been appointed by the United States District Court. That meeting is going to take place next Tuesday in Washington, D.C. Plaintiffs, of which we are invited to send a representative to that meeting. We'll determine whether or not that's that's worth doing. But the purpose of the meeting is to discuss how any proceeds and this litigation is eventually headed towards settlement. So this is a meeting about how the settlement funds are going to be divvied up among the states and within each state between counties and municipalities that are each a party to the agreement or to the litigation. I'm sorry. So that meeting is taking place next Tuesday. I did discover through inquiry today that no other plaintiffs have. That we were asked to indicate an interest in attending so that they could plan. And at least as far as clients of our attorney, clients in common with Rusty Webb, no other plaintiffs that he is representing have expressed interest in attending. So maybe it'd be nice to be the only person, group at the table.
Bigger slice of the pie, right, Tom?
Well, we're gonna, or at least have a say in how that calculation is going to be, because it's going to be determined based on formula, and this is the meeting at which discussion over what form that formula will take is going to take place.
REAP awards will be the multiplier.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably more along the lines of figuring out what your percentage of damage is. It's going to, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be something that's going to be defensible before the district court for the Eastern District of Ohio, where this litigation is taking place. So, our showing up is not going to result in us getting a bigger share, I think, than otherwise. But at least we could have a voice in the process.
All right. Yeah, I think it might be worth it.
Other than that, I have matters. I have several matters to be brought up under Section F, under strategic issues that we've been working on. past couple weeks, and I'll defer further comment until that point, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions for Tom of a general nature before we call him back here in just a few minutes? Nope. All right, Tom, thanks. We'll call you back here in a second. Correspondence and information, you got all kinds of stuff. There is the, remember, we are going to lay our levy on Tuesday, April 16th at 9 o'clock. And no, we don't have any choice. It's one of those state mandate things. County Commission's doing the same thing. I think the Board of Ed, everybody's got to do it. It's just one of those screwy state statutory things that it's just what it is, guys. So please, we need at least 4 council members to be here to have our quorum to approve our annual levy. And then for the first time in all the years I've been associated with the city, we have 3 meetings in 3 months that we need to reschedule due to holidays or the Strawberry Festival. First is the Strawberry Festival. The May 16th meeting will be on Tuesday, May 14th. The June 20th meeting of Sanitary Board and Council will be June 18th, which is that Tuesday. And the Thursday, July 4th meetings of our Waste Collection Board and the City Council would be 2 days earlier on Tuesday, July 2. So please take note of those changes. You have in your packet the brochure that was dropped off for patient airlift services. There's my thank you letters to the Rotary, Sudden Lake, Altice, West Virginia Municipal League, and Jim and Pat Marsh for various gifts or service to the city. And you also have, you don't have the full thick packet, it's about 1 inch thick, but it's the Phase 3 grant application for fiscal year 2020 on our Colonial Theater rehabilitation project. The amount that our architect Bryson Van Nostren has evaluated as far as the improvements for Phase 3 is the amount of $67,000. Of course, we got to match that to get that this next year, if we're successful in that award. The consent agenda consists of 3 items: the approval of our minutes from the last regular meeting of March 21, the approval of our building and wiring permits, and the approval of the payment of the general fund bills. I would entertain a motion that we approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner.
Second.
I have a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. So we got 12 strategic items, 3 of which we have already acted on. We'll address those items we haven't yet addressed. First up, Tom, you want to step back up? It would be the approval on second and final reading of Ordinance 435, which has to do with our downtown parking.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read the ordinance by caption. Ordinance number 435 of the City of Buckhannon, amending, modifying, and reenacting ordinance number 409, also known as ordinance number 2016-008, and ordinance number 422 of the City of Buckhannon, known, cited, and referred to as the Buckhannon Parking Ordinance. This ordinance was explained first reading. I caught, the mayor had pointed out a typo in the effective date, which was incorrect on the first draft. It has been corrected in this version to reflect that the effective date is May 4th, 2019. I had counted my weeks wrong in the prior calculation. Other than that, the ordinance is unchanged from its adoption and first reading, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Remember, folks, this is just a little tweak to part of what was formerly all Lot 3 that is now a new Lot 3 and Lot 4, right?
It was 3, and then there was Section A of Lot 3, and then that'll be 3 and 4 instead of 3 in Section A.
Very, very minor revision to our parking ordinance.
It also designates the public safety complex parking lot as Lot 5 for what it's worth.
I'd entertain a motion that we approve on second and final reading ordinance 435. A motion by Mr. Rylands. Second. Second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I will call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. F2 is approval of ordinance 436. This is a first reading ordinance that has been advanced by our city zoning and housing enforcement officer, Vincent Smith, and also our fire chief, J.B. Kimball, having to do with modifications from the state, relative to the state building code. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The State Fire Marshal, Mr. Tyree, has sent by letter notified the city of a change made to the Code of State Rules requiring that if the city wants its building code to remain enforceable, we have to adopt the updated, and I looked up and I knew what this stood for, but the ANSI so on standard from 2010. The standard that we have enacted right now is the 2007 edition. The State Fire Marshal has said that we have to adopt the 2010 edition. I'm not in a position to tell you what the difference is between those two versions of the building of that particular code are. But if Vince will be at the next meeting, I suppose, to can answer that. I would mention one thing: the fire marshal, and just to be clear, we just received this communication within the last, I don't know, week maybe at the most, and the mandate for the fire marshal is that this new version has to be adopted prior to April 30th of 2019. Now, I think there's enough of a question between adopted and effective to suggest that on second reading we may deem this an emergency ordinance so that it takes effect immediately and not 30 days under the charter because of the mandate that the fire marshal's office has handed down. It's a situation in which we kind of find ourselves at not of our own doing.
Yeah, well, since given that emergency mandate, and since we can't typically substantively amend an ordinance on its last reading, why don't we amend that accordingly right now?
Okay.
To reflect that it's an emergency mandate, and then we'll adopt it effective immediately at the April 18th meeting. Does that sound like a plan, folks? Yeah. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion that with that minor amendment to the ordinance on the date of effectuation, that we approved on first reading, ordinance 436. Have you read that by caption yet?
Article 4, no, I have not. Let me do
you want to do that, please, for us?
Ordinance number 436 of the City of Buckhannon, and ordinance amending prior ordinances of the City of Buckhannon by providing for the adoption of the West Virginia State Building Code set forth and defined by Title 87, Series 4 of the Code of State Rules as amended.
And there will be a declaration of emergency implementation and effectuation.
Yes.
We're reading that into our amendment right now that will be presented to you at the April 18th meeting. I'll entertain a motion that we approve this on first reading.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner, second to his motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Thomas. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. F3, and I'll read this memo if I can find it. I had it a minute ago. There it is. This is from the Elkins Fire Department, and we were given a heads up a meeting or so ago. It's addressed to Chief J.B. Kimball from Chief T. Meter, Elkins Fire Department, April 2, 2019. Request for assistance. Chief Kimball, per our previous conversation, I am contacting you in writing with a rare request for assistance. In January, the Elkins Fire Department shipped one of our pumpers, engine 403, to Columbus for maintenance and upgrades. This engine has obviously been unavailable for use. On March 13, 2019, another pumper, engine 401, suffered a mechanical breakdown and the engine is locked up. It has been transported to Western Branch Diesel in Charleston for repair. This leaves us currently down 2 pumpers. A third pumper, engine 405, was struck by another motorist while operating at the scene of a motor vehicle accident on March 3, 2019. Engine 405 is currently still in service with some moderate cosmetic damage. I am contacting you with the request of a loaner pumper. a pumper that we can use for the strict purpose of a reserve or in the event of multiple alarms. In the event of a working incident, we could be placed in a situation of personnel left at the station with no apparatus to respond with. It is my hope that either or both of the out-of-service apparatus will be home and operational in the next 30 to 45 days, and the loaner can be returned. At this time, this is pure speculation. We are gaining information daily on the progress of their repair. We are currently reviewing the specifics of our insurance policy in the event of damage to your pumper so that we can provide the appropriate coverage. Thank you and the City of Buckhannon for your consideration of our request. If you should require any further documentation, please contact me immediately, signed by their fire chief. Folks, I would hope that we would support our friends in Elkins with this. Chief Kimball says it's not going to be a hindrance at all to us, and very recently the Elkins Fire Department has assisted us tremendously in a couple of other matters. I'd entertain a motion that we authorize this, and Tom has, I have a motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Skinner. Discussion on the motion.
We just want to,
well, I've prepared a letter agreement to put this into effect. Basically, the operative terms are to ensure that they include this pumper under their own insurance policy, that they name the City of Buckhannon and the Buckhannon Fire Department as additional insureds, that it includes an indemnity clause, it clarifies that they are responsible for any deductibles, and indicates that this is that will be returned in 45 days. We could always extend it if necessary. But
Tom shot it to me, and I gave it the once over, and it looked fine by me, folks.
Send him the worst pumper we got.
Well, this is engine 11, which is it's on the auction block as it is. So it's, you know,
it's one that we are looking to do an upgrade with if we buy a new truck on down the pike. But it's still it's a functional vehicle.
And they're responsible for, you know, if anything happens to it.
the colors will clash a bit, but I think we're...
Well, I think we should stick a provision in there that they had to paint all their trucks red.
you know, they were here within 2 weeks of 2 commercial structure fires for us.
Yep. And,
you know, we are very, very similar operations. We do things very similarly. We're very similar sized. You know, there could easily be a time when we need them, all of them, over here for a potential disaster. So this is a good thing for us to do for them.
Further discussion on the motion? Hearing the need for none, I'm going to call for that question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. So you can work with Chief Kimball, Tom, to
yes,
officially
copy
affect
this.
that.
Well, it calls for your signature, and then we can get over there.
I'll sign this evening. There was a thing that came before it was too late for Consolidated Public Works to act on, and in those instances, given we don't have an overlap between the council and waste collection or water or sanitary, but there are overlap functions between the Consolidated Public Works Board and the City Council. This is a request from the Clarksburg Kennel Club dog training classes being conducted by Mark Delaney. And throughout the month of April, I think it's just one night a week for the month of April. And it's just an hour, one night a week at that. They're going to be doing a dog training thing, and they asked if they could do it at the dog park. The dog park committee has weighed in. They have recommended that we do this. And we've talked with the folks at Consolidated, and they support it. They just couldn't act on the request because it came in less than 3 days before their last meeting, and that's the reason it's on the council agenda. It's my recommendation that we allow this activity, and before we get into that, well, what's it worth to us? We're told that this guy will probably make about $1,000 for the whole thing, and we're requesting a $100 gift toward our Buckhannon dog park as a consequence of their activities, and I think he's already acquiesced to that if we grant him this permission.
Yep.
Is that a motion,
Yes.
Mrs. Albaugh?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Sorry.
I have a motion by Mary Albaugh. May I have a second to her
second.
motion? I have a second by Mr. Thomas. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Do you want a letter agreement?
Can we work something
Yeah.
short and sweet up to that effect? And, yeah.
Are they going to require them to carry insurance? Do they have insurance?
They do have insurance, and they will
Name assistant.
provide proof of insurance in the whole bit. We've already acted on F5. F6 is another exciting matter. Over on Island Avenue, Tammy Hatfield has asked if we would be interested in the dedication of some property that is right beside some other property that was recently dedicated to the city of Buckhannon. So we own the piece on the riverbank right next door to this. There is great utility in our city being able to control as much of the property as possible that fronts on the Buckhannon River. We can restrict development, we can maintain enforcement of our floodplain and floodway ordinances. I don't know that this property would ever be used for anything like a boat launching place or anything like that, but this isn't going to cost us anything other than Tom's hard labor. So
You're getting that already.
we're getting that already, yeah. So do you want to speak to it, Tom?
Well, I can't really say much more than you've already said. We're, Amby is, I prepared the resolution, and Teresa, I suppose Teresa printed out a copy of it for the execution, but at some point before the end of the evening, we'll just have everybody sign it, lead a roll call vote on that.
We've got it right here.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me
Call
tell
for the motion then, let's go.
What'd you say?
Mr. Islands called you a crazy old coot.
Yeah, right.
I took up for it, but,
Right.
you know. No, we got the original here. Okay, Tom, so I'd entertain a motion that we approve City Resolution 2019-02.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh. May I have a second to her motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Skinner. Is there discussion on that motion? I'll call for the question, we'll pass the thing, and then we'll do a roll call vote. Discussion, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, and now we'll do the roll call vote. Mr. Rieger.
Yes.
And this is the first time I get to call her name, her new name, and she's not even here. Pamela Bucklew, how do you vote? Oh, she's not here tonight, so we'll put her as absent. Mary Albaugh.
Yes.
Robbie Skinner.
Yes.
J. David Thomas.
Yes.
Clifford J. Rylance.
Yes.
And the mayor votes yes. Please sign this before you go. I'm putting my John Hancock on it right now. We'll show, I'm printing in absent for Pam. So, you want to go this way? We'll go this way first. Okay. Okay, Tom, we're through with F6. Takes us down to F8, which is the Consolidated Public Works Board's recommendation to name City Hall after J.D. Hinkle Jr. And they also had a recommendation that we establish some sort of municipal wall of fame here at City Hall or somewhere close by City Hall. I'll entertain a motion that we get this matter on the table.
Okay.
Are you guys listening down there?
No, he was helping David sign.
I'll entertain a motion that we bring F8 to the table.
Oh, you have so stupid.
Oh, yeah.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Rollins. May I have a second to his motion? I will second that motion. The matter is now on the table. Discussion on the motion.
David, I'll discuss it. I don't know J.D. Hinkle at all. I know he was the mayor for a couple of terms. And
12
council,
years.
12 years.
6 2-year terms.
I don't think it's appropriate to memorialize a person's name with City Hall. I mean, it'd be similar to the state capitol building, the federal capitol building. I think it should just be Buckhannon City Hall, period. And that it not be recognizing somebody's name, even though that person has served either as a mayor or council. That's just my position.
Okay?
Nothing to do with the person.
Yeah.
It's just the process. I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay? Mr. Rollins?
Well, I think this was brought up at Consolidated Public Works, and there was no opposition to it, and I have no problem with recognizing people's contribution to the city or any other entity, and so I support this.
I would tell you that if we were to carve in a hill or mountain around Buckhannon someplace, the Mount Rushmore of Buckhannon, I would have my thoughts on who the 4 figures would be, and I'll share them with you. It would be Binky Poundstone, Bob Wallace, Harley Brown, and the central figure that they all swore by was J.D. Hinkle Jr. J.D., during the time that he was mayor, we acquired West Virginia Water Works. We expanded waste collection throughout, collecting garbage basically throughout Upshur County. The sewer works was greatly expanded. We had more street paving. You got to remember that back in the, until the early 60s, there were not only unpaved alleys all over the place, but there were some unpaved streets in Buckhannon. And we didn't have hardly any streetlights. And all of those things, those essential things came to pass. I knew J.D., he died 3.5 years after I came to Buckhannon. I was in his company 4 or 5 weeks before he died. It was a horrible loss for those of us that knew him well, especially when I think about Harley and Binky and Bob Wallace. I have no issue at all with doing this. If there was to be a character that you would identify who gave more to the city of Buckhannon during his long tenure, there's nobody that did more than J.D. Hinkle Jr. did for our city. That's just my thoughts on it. And I'm one of 7 votes, so I'll let the rest of you weigh in.
I don't have a problem with there being a display wall, and maybe not necessarily inside City Hall, but somewhere on or near premises of the figures that you named and more. I mean, Tony Gum, former mayor of this town.
Sure.
We realized the great portion of the river. The river trail became a reality with Tony Gum's contribution. Jim Knorr is an integral figure of Buckhannon. He was the mayor a lot of my childhood here. So I think we have had a lot of people that have contributed to this community that have moved it along. And we're not finished with that. I don't think Buckhannon's going to go away next year. And I don't think we're going to close up shop and say, okay, everybody that has ever contributed, it's all over with, and we're just going to name the last few buildings of the people that have contributed up until this point. Yeah. I think it also could potentially open up a slippery slope. Do we name the public safety complex? Do we rename Jawbone Park after someone? Do we? I would rather us establish a wall similarly to what we did at the public safety complex with iconic characters of our community, but leave Buckhannon City Hall as Buckhannon City Hall. The business owners and the residents, this is their building, and they pay for it monthly. We all do as residents of this community. So those are my thoughts. And again, I know the Hinkle family. My family's been around here a long time, and I know I've heard a lot of stories about J.D. Hinkle and the contributions he's made, and they're a wonderful family. They're still right here down the street contributing to our community. But I just believe that naming the single most integral building of this organization and to this city after one person, when so many have given and so many will give in the future, I would rather it stay Buckhannon City Hall and no more.
Okay. Mrs. Alba?
I thank you, Robbie, for speaking. And usually, I try to go along with what a board does, you know, if they approve something like that.
Sure.
And I felt this through beforehand too, but Robbie hit it so much better than I did, because I feel like crap, okay? Sorry. But I like Buckhannon City Hall. We are not just a city hall for city people. We've got customers all out in the county. Buckhannon City Hall. I like that. There is a nice plaque out there on the front of the building. I've got a picture of it somewhere at home.
Yeah.
It's a nice one.
Yeah.
But I think maybe not right now. I see.
Mr. Rieger?
I'm inclined to agree with the dissenters on this particular issue.
Well, that might be us.
Well, there you go. With Mr. Thomas Skinner and Ms. Hallball, yeah, the naming facility, you know, other auxiliary facilities after individuals who have been integral in their foundation is fine, but this, like they said, this is the city center. It would be like renaming the Capitol building in Washington, the Washington building or something. I don't know.
I hear you. All right, how about we do this? How about we vote up or down this, and then we'll entertain as a separate motion whatever we're going to call this thing with the Wall of Fame, and we'll come up with some criteria for nominees. I can think of 20 people off the top of my head, but that's just me. I mean, Sam Ludlow and Bud Bennett and Frank Williams that served on our sanitary board for 30 years, and the list goes on and on of people that made contributions that
People, you'll get to your name eventually. You'll get to your name eventually.
My name eventually.
Well, you've been involved with the city for over 35 years too.
I'm not aspiring to that. But in any event,
and all those people that have been named, they weren't aspiring to have their name recognized.
No, not
they did it for the community.
They love the city.
Especially J.D. Hinkle Jr. It was never about J.D. He was a man of total humility and modesty, and he would probably be taken more than aback a little by this overture.
So do you want us to take it to a vote now?
Let's
well, we if we don't just to rename the city hall, right?
Yeah, this is just on City Hall.
Citizens input. I put on my paper. I'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. I'm guessing. Specifically because of what's been said here, there've been so many other mayors that have put in as much time and work as JD did, and I knew JD very personally. Went to some ball games and stuff with him a lot of times out of town, but I think others have done the same. And when do we stop? And where do we stop putting names on buildings and statues of squirrels and whatever and everything else in the city? I think maybe it's time to just give a little bit of recognition of this is the City Hall of the city of Buckhannon. And let's keep it at that, my point.
What are you talking about with squirrels?
Groundhogs.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Sean. We appreciate your opinion. I'm going to call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, aye. I almost forgot to vote with you. Put you out there and leave you. Those opposed, like sign?
No.
No.
Okay, it fails 4-2. So now let's consider, and I don't know what the permutation of this will be, but what I would envision would be we form a committee, and the committee makes a recommendation to the council, and we every once a year consider, maybe the first year we have 6 or 8 people that are part of it, and then after we have additional nominees, and and as has been observed, the folks that would be mature, ripe for inclusion on this wall are going to change in the years and decades to come. After Ricker's got his 45 years into the city, we'll want to memorialize.
So you could have a wall of fame.
Yeah, wall of fame. Or whatever we call it.
I think that's a good process.
I'll make a motion to develop a committee to establish a municipal wall of fame.
Okay.
Second.
With discretionary criteria to be to be developed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the committee would make the recommendation to the council, to the governing body.
Something similar
You cool
to
with that?
I'm cool with it.
Something similar to the Chamber of Commerce, the Citizens of the Year. And
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a motion and a second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion on that motion?
I would think we want to
Excuse me.
restrict the number of people. You said 6 the first year. I would like, 1 or 2. If you start wholesale,
Let the committee make a recommendation.
Yeah, so be it.
You want to be on the committee? Is that what you're
No, I
saying?
would think Mr. Thomas and Mr. Skinner.
Oh, yeah, let's put me on another committee.
Yeah, we all love being on that.
Since they're doing they can do that while they're working on the census.
We didn't tell them about that.
What about
she
the
told me
census
about
there?
that.
Colin, what about the census?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Skinner and I supposed to work on this.
No.
You and Skinner are the
I think we missed a meeting somewhere.
That's what happens when you miss a meeting.
That's right.
Would there be citizens on this committee or just people from the council?
Ron, I nominate Ron to be on that committee.
Oh, God, there we go.
We'll figure out the dynamics.
That
of
wasn't
the
very
committee
nice, because
going
he's
forward.
We haven't even
he's a
approved the
hard-
committee.
Yeah,
I've
which
got a
one?
motion and a
We have a
second.
motion and a second.
Well, why not?
Is there any
Another way.
further discussion on the motion? If not, I will call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries.
Did Ron vote? I thought he said yes.
They did.
Yeah, it did.
See?
The F9 item is not for action, it's information only, and Jerry is gone, but I would tell you that the Senate Bill 147 failed.
It was.
Hmm?
It was vetoed.
Yeah, the governor vetoed it, but there is concern that it could rear its ugly head again next year. And if it does, it would diminish state contributions under the old Landfill Closure Act, which could impact our waste collection board to the tune of like $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's an onus that we are ill-equipped to absorb. So the waste collection board earlier today directed me to prepare a letter to our legislators, which would be Senator Bill Hamilton and to the Martins, saying we don't want you to consider this on down the road at any point. So that's the information. I just wanted you all to be aware of it, and we'll take the appropriate action with a letter. Does everyone understand we're trying to not add basically a new expense of an annual nature to our waste collection board? F10 is the approval to sponsor a table at the annual Buckhannon Upshur Chamber of Commerce dinner. Robbie, what's the date on that?
April 25th.
I know it's the end of the month. April 25th. I'd entertain a motion that we approve that that sponsorship. I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh. May I have a second to her motion?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Rylands. Discussion on the motion. Call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. West Virginia Strawberry Festival request of event, beer garden letter to submit with application to West Virginia Alcohol and Beverage Commission. I am told, ergo, I believe, you like that word, ergo?
Ergo.
Yeah. That they have revisited this matter and have decided to not expand beer into the streets, but they do have a private site that's going to be more expansive than what they had before. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter to us now.
They're not asking the city for
A variance of any kind.
no, no.
Okay.
So I don't know that we need to take any action. I'm just reporting the current status of things. Tom, is that your understanding of things?
Yes.
That's the best response of the night.
I
F12 we've already acted upon, which takes us down to comments and announcements. By God, we're going to get out of here by 9 o'clock.
Do I go first?
Mrs. Albaugh, you get to go first.
do, thank you very much. It's been a good week.
Wait, hold on. What F12 happened? What now?
F12 we already acted upon.
We already acted.
Earlier.
Oh yeah, okay.
No match for money or something.
He's on heavy cold medications.
Yeah, he's giving me a
Cold. Anything, Mrs. Albaugh?
No, have a good evening.
Okay. Pam's not here. Mr. Rylands.
I'm good.
Mr. Skinner.
I would like to congratulate the council and thank everybody for their consideration into the project out on Brushy Fork Road. I had the pleasure of speaking with Aaron multiple times. I know I wasn't the only one on council, but you know, this is a potential nice development for our community, and if you look at where our community has the potential to develop even more than it already has, it's going to be in that direction. The land is level. There's land to be had, and you know, there's potential considerable future development out that way. So I believe that we acted correctly. I'm excited to see what happens out there, and I hope that we treat future requests and development the same in the future. That's all I have to say.
All right, sir. Mr. Thomas.
Just a quick comment. I think it would be helpful, David, at some point in time that I know we used to meet with the county commission on the 5th Thursday of the month, and I think we should entertain maybe at least 2 meetings a year with the commission to look at strategic issues that we sort of overlap together with. That's something to think about, I think, for the future.
I'll be happy to reach out to them. The last time or two I've done that, they had conflicts with Fifth Thursdays, and they opted out. But
I think we should try to
continue to, you know, invite them or have them invite us or whatever. I'll reach out to Sam again.
I think that's years ago. The Development Authority at one point in time, I think they met twice with officials from the college, the commission, the hospital, the city, the Board of Education, and members from other, you know, chamber or Rotarians and so forth. And I think that those community events oftentimes are very helpful as to what do we want to do, what's our vision for the future, not just because we're a mayor or council or a commissioner, but other individuals also. I think that's helpful.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. Well, I'll reach out to Sam again. Mr. Rigger.
No comment.
Wow, that leaves it up to me. I've got a big long thing I want to read tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Great work on the Brushy Fork thing. It's a similar kind of a thing as to, I mean, I'm a baseball aficionado, and my favorite baseball movie is The Field of Dreams. And you know the line in The Field of Dreams is, if you build it, they will come. Mm-hmm. And when we took a chance with that Lowe's project and brought that valley in out there, my God, those folks that want to complain about the box stores, I understand the niche that we have with our beautiful downtown, and we've managed to avoid those cookie cutter looks. We could not function if it wasn't for the box stores on the periphery of our town. I mean, literally, about half of our general fund is attributed to what has been realized out there with the Walmart and Lowe's developments. It is huge to our ability to do what we do in so many ways. I think that there is that kind of similar opportunity out there at Brushy Fork.
I believe so too.
And if we're talking about an annexation of 150 acres, you got to remember that all of Buckhannon right now consists of just a little less than 2,000 square acres. So we would be adding, you know, the equivalent of 5, 6, 7% of our current land mass if we were to annex that property.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. I mean, for an Appalachian community to grow, the likelihood of us growing organically is not high. We're going to have to have a comprehensive annexation plan moving forward that looks at 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Especially with quarter H.
Yes.
And especially with the implementation of the 1% sales tax.
Yeah.
That's going to make, and we have a lot of infrastructure. I mean, we're in fairly decent shape, but we still have a lot of things we must do.
We got our challenges, absolutely. I would congratulate the former Pam Caperi, who's now Pam Buckler. It's going to take. We've got a new nameplate ordered.
Yeah.
So it'll be here soon, right, Andy?
It's already here.
It's already here.
She took it.
She just wasn't here.
She's so happy with her new name, she took it.
Yeah, she did. I think she took the old one. And our old buddy Don Nestor turned 70 years old on April Fool's Day, and that just struck me as very
April
funny.
Fool's Day?
April Fool's Day, Don was 70. So if we could put that in the paper, Katie, and Amanda. And I apologize. I meant to recognize our newest reporter with the Record Delta. Would you tell us exactly who you are and
Sure. My name is Amy Gargas. I'm from Michigan. I just came here about 6 months ago. And thank everybody for being so hospitable since I've been here.
Well, if we were hospitable, we would have recognized at the beginning instead of at the very end.
Whereabouts in Michigan?
Near the Detroit area, north of the Detroit area, in a suburb called Davison.
Is this your first small town experience?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like it, and everything seems faster, more congested up
How
there.
bad is our traffic? 'Cause we
Oh,
think
no.
it's bad.
Oh, no, it's not.
Welcome to south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah.
No, it's
I
not.
wait for 5 seconds. Pull out my.
It's a nightmare.
Where are you from originally?
A place called
Holy
Lapeer,
interview.
Michigan is where I was born.
What'd you say, CJ?
So,
Holy interview.
yeah, so,
My kids call me a prosecuting attorney.
so about an hour and a half north of Detroit.
Well, welcome to Buckhannon.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you.
It's Amy Gardas?
Yes, Gardas.
Gardas.
We'll look forward to becoming better acquainted in meetings to come.
Thank you.
Folks, it's 9 o'clock on the dot.
Amazing.
I would entertain a motion to executive- My God, that was the fastest.
That's amazing.
We're adjourned.
All in
Thank you all
favor?
for coming.